Hello, my name is Jennifer Krieger. Please join me on a tour of the life of Louis Zamperini around the globe. It all began in Olean, New York on January 22nd, 1917. Louis Zamperini was born to Italian immigrants, and it was said that he could run from the moment that he could walk. Shortly thereafter, Louis' family moved to Torrance, California. There in Torrance, he was somewhat of a rebel, getting into trouble. Louis began running track at Torrance High under the direction of his older brother Pete. He was dubbed the Torrance Tornado and set his sights on competing in the 1936 Olympic Games. In 1936, he went to Berlin, Germany to compete in the Games. Louis Zamperini trailed in the 5,000 meter. He ran the last lap in 56 seconds to finish 7th. Most impressed with that speed, Louis Zamperini actually ended up meeting Adolf Hitler, and he also stole the swastika flag as a souvenir. His new goal following the 1936 Olympics was to compete in the 1,500-meter race in the 1940 Olympic Games. Due to the war that was going on in Germany, the 1940 Olympic Games that were sent to be held in Japan were canceled. Therefore, Louis decided to join the Army Air Corps. He was stationed in Houston, Texas, and it was there when Pearl Harbor was attacked by the Japanese on December 7, 1941. From there, once he graduated flight school, Louis was sent to Oahu, Hawaii. Louis Zamperini was assigned to a flight crew for a B-24 bomber called the Superman. They flew missions to Wake, Nauru, Funadi, and during these missions, they lost a few crew members, and their plane was heavily damaged. The realities of war were everywhere for Louis. It was said that the chance of death before completing a tour duty at this time was around 50%. On May 27, 1943, Louis Zamperini was part of a flight crew that left Honolulu on a search mission. They had to use a B-24 known as the Green Hornet. On that B-24, 2 engines ended up failing, and they crashed into the ocean. This is where Louis' troubles began. Louis, Phil, and Mac survived. The other 11 men perished. June 4th, 1943, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, they were drifting west towards the enemy. The families of Louis, Phil, and Mac were actually notified that they were missing on this day. The 3 airmen were short on food and water. They had very few provisions in the 2 rafts that they were floating around in. So they harvested rainwater as best they could, and they caught an albatross. The first one they caught, though, had poor meat, and so they had to use the meat for bait to catch fish. To try and keep their wits about them, they sang White Christmas. They described the meals that they'd eat, and that actually helped them make them feel fuller, and they used conversation to try and keep their minds. On the 27th day at sea, the men spotted some planes up ahead. They had turned out to be Japanese bombers that were flying over them. They flew over 6 times and shot each time at the rafts. Louis went under the rafts and sought refuge there, but he also had to fight off shark attacks, while Phil and Mac ended up staying in the raft and trying to play dead. Amazingly, none of them were killed, although they did suffer some injuries. After the attacks, they had one bullet shot raft left, in which they kept afloat. To keep it afloat, they had to keep pumping air into it and spend time trying to patch all the bullet holes. Following this attack, they caught some small sharks with some creative methods, and they ate their livers to try and keep alive. Shortly thereafter, though, Mac died, and they slipped his body into the ocean. On the 47th day at sea, the longest for anyone at that time, they were captured by the Japanese. On July 13, 1943, Louis and Phil were captured and sent to Kwajalein, also known as Execution Island, and they were POWs, prisoners of war. There they were deprived of their dignity, interrogated, and experimented on. At sea, both of them had lost a lot of weight. Phil had started out at 150 pounds and was now down to 80 pounds. Louis Zamperini was once 160 pounds and now weighed just 67 pounds. Oops. On September 1943, Louis was then transferred to another prisoner of war camp. It was a secret interrogation camp in Ofuna, Japan, where he was beaten regularly. There the guards were known for 2 things, being stupid and being cruel. In the summer of 1944, Louis devised a plan to escape, which he never had time to execute, because on September 30th, 1944, Louis was then transferred again to another POW camp in Omori, Japan. This is where he first encountered Matsuhiro Watanabe, who was a Japanese officer, and he basically dedicated his life to shattering Louis Zamperini. He had recognized Zamperini as an athlete from the 1936 Olympics and wanted to make an example of him in front of the other POWs. Watanabe would haunt Louis long after the war ended. On February 28, 1945, Louis once again was transferred to another POW camp. This one was in Natsui, Japan. This camp was known as a slave camp, where Louis once again found himself a victim of Watanabe's cruelty. Zamperini called his time at Natsui the hell of war. While at Natsui, the B-29 atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki occurred, and on September 2, 1945, the formal surrender of Japan was accepted, and the war was over. Zamperini was a free man, a survivor, and a hero. But a story does not end there. To learn more about Zamperini's story, read Unbroken by Lauren Hillenbrand.